HTG crew. Hold up. Let me get a bandana on this head real quick. I knew something didn't look right. Let me lace up real quick, HTG crew. That feels so much better, baby. We're only a few weeks away from the PGA Championship at Kiowa. Guys, remember, for that Sunday, May the 23rd, mark it off your calendars. We're going to do a little final round broadcast. We're going to use some new technology from a couple of buddies of mine that I studied with at Stanford, and we're going to test out a little alternate broadcast with yours truly as your commentator. So mark off that Sunday, May 23rd, again for the PGA Championship there at Kiowa. I'm going to try to pilot a little alternative broadcast experiment, and would love for all of you in the HTG crew to be involved. And with that, we got an event to get to this week before we can look ahead too far to the PGA Championship. So let me spark up. We're going to recap the week at the VALSPAR. Would have loved to see Keegan Bradley pull that one out, but happy for Sam Burns. And then we'll get into the Wells Fargo. So today we're smoking Doc OG. The grower is Cali Gas Pack. This is a hybrid testing at 18.5% THC. Should be a good one. All right, recapping 2021 VALSPAR Championship. I mentioned Sam Burns wins at 17 under. Burns, one of three players in the field to shoot all four of his rounds in the 60s. Those other players being Victor Hovland, who's a very interesting name looking into this week at the Wells Fargo, as well as Cameron Tringale. Burns has been playing great golf as of late, so this doesn't come out of nowhere. He really was trending toward, maybe not a win I didn't expect, but certainly he had been trending toward, playing some really good golf and vying for some top 10, top 5 finishes. And it all culminated in a win this past week at the VALSPAR. So congratulations to Sam Burns. My money and my emotional support was behind old Keegan Bradley, who didn't go full Keegan on the back nine there on Sunday, but sort of went like half Keegan, right? Shot 3 over there on that back nine, just sort of imploded. Turned actually with a 1-stroke lead over Burns on Sunday there. Keegan, a player we owned in Draftkings, a player obviously that we mentioned here on the podcast coming into the week, just has so much upside when he's playing well. So was really hoping that Keegan could pull it out, but a solo second certainly pays the bills when it comes to Draftkings. So can't complain there with Keegan's performance. And something else to note, a guy who I expected to have a much better round on Sunday, but went the opposite direction. Max Homa, he played a lot better than that T6 finish would imply. He hit the ball extremely well this week. On Sunday there was just putrid around the greens and on the greens. He was great with the putter on, Thursday through Saturday, but sort of fell apart on Sunday. And the around the green game on Sunday was pathetic, which uncharacteristic of Homa. So I'm really going to take away the ball striking from this event. Homa, a guy coming into the Wells Fargo, right? We last saw the Wells Fargo in 2019, 2020 version canceled due to COVID. So Homa's our defending champ coming into this week's Wells Fargo. Looked really good last week at the VALSPAR, and that T6 honestly is like close to the floor of where I expect that finish to be, given how well he hit the ball. So Max Homa, certainly someone to look at moving forward. He's having a phenomenal year, and he seems to be back at the top of his game. So could Homa get his second win of the season this week coming into Quail? I could see it happening. But yeah, that pretty much is what I wanted to take a look at as far as the VALSPAR is concerned. Nothing else was really jumping out at me and watching the event and going back through the strokes gain data. Nothing that I really think we need to pay attention to, especially moving forward. Really the Homa performance was something that stood out to me, and the only thing that really stood out to me as far as players to target for this week, based on maybe people underrating their performance last week. And I know it seems crazy, like it's hard to underrate a T6, right? Because it's a great finish, right? But Homa really should have been contending for that win, and if he were, I think his ownership and pricing coming into this week into the Wells Fargo will look a bit different on DraftKings. And with that being said, I will go ahead and start breaking down the Wells Fargo. Respark this bad boy. So Wells Fargo Championship. Again, we didn't have the event in 2020. It was canceled due to COVID. So good to be back at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. Quail Hollow plays at a par 71, 7,521 yards, so a long golf course at a par 71, and we are on a Bermuda POA green mixture. Heavy winds anticipated on Friday is something to note, like 17-mile-an-hour winds and gusts higher than that are expected on Friday. So weather stacks this week are something to consider. It's definitely something viable. If you can get a tee time stack on Friday that get some lower wind conditions, that could be a huge advantage over the field. So just something to consider. The heavy winds expected on Friday. Aside from Max Homa being the defending champion from 2019, as I mentioned, he shot 15 under that year. Also want to take into consideration, of course, that Justin Thomas was the winner of the 2017 PGA Championship here at Quail Hollow. So JT himself has some hardware, back in the library from Quail. So good course history for him as well. I actually, a good friend of mine who I talk to all the time about daily fantasy sports, DraftKings, golf especially, mentioned he lives in the Charlotte area. He mentioned that the golf courses in the area very firm, very fast. It sounds like there hasn't been much rain, much precipitation there lately. And we can expect this golf course to play a little bit firmer, a little bit faster. I think that's going to help the guys that don't hit the ball as far, right? Because I did mention 7,521 yards at par 71. That's a pretty lengthy golf course, even by PGA Tour standards. But I did not include strokes gained distance off the tee in the model, partially because I do expect, based on the information I received, expect the golf course to play a bit faster and for that reason not play as long. The other thing to note about a golf course playing faster is that the greens likely won't be as receptive as they normally would be. So targeting players that can flight the ball with a higher trajectory, always a good idea when you're playing some firm conditions. The problem being on Friday particularly, if there are high wind conditions, you're going to want folks that can flight the ball, low as well. So the Friday conditions are really going to throw a loop and throw a wrench into this whole scheme. I could see Friday being a day that plays well for the links style player who can really control the trajectory of their golf ball and control the flight of their golf ball. But aside from that, we really just want players that are good on approach, solid tee to green players. Typically, I would target some distance off the tee, but as I mentioned, with the hard and fast conditions, we won't be doing that this year. So the specific stats that we're looking at in the model this week, we're looking at strokes gained approach as being our leading statistic. We're looking at strokes gained off the tee, par fours, 450 to 500 yards. So strokes gained on those par fours, 450 to 500 yards. We see 8 of those at Quail Hollow this week. We're going to still include, as we did last week, par 3s, 200 to 225 yards. We get 3 of those par 3s this week, and the fourth par 3 plays almost at 200 yards. So we essentially get 4 of those holes this week. So we will include that stat again. And as always, we're going to sprinkle in some strokes gained putting to see who's riding hot with the flat stick and see if that can help us identify any opportunities. My winner this week is in the mid-shelf plays. So drop in the comments on YouTube who you think my winner, the 2021 Wells Fargo Championship is. Again, in the mid-shelf plays, that means that my winner is priced below $10,000 on DraftKings, but above $7,500. And when I get to that guy in the mid-shelf, I'll make sure to shout him out so you guys know who my winner of the event is. Some withdrawals. Do some quick housekeeping here. Brendan Todd's withdrawn. Camilo Villegas has withdrawn, and Jim Herman, the Herminator, has withdrawn as well. So you're obviously not playing any of those folks. And with that, it's time to get a drink of water and get into our top shelf plays. Top shelf plays are priced at $10,000 or more in DraftKings salary. Our first top shelf play, we haven't seen him for a little bit, since the Masters, as a matter of fact. Mr. Bryson DeChambeau, $11,000 flat is the price tag, 12.9% projected ownership. And as far as ball striking goes, in 2021, really no one's been much better than Bryson has been. Over the last 12 measured rounds, he comes in first in the custom model, 20th on approach, first off the tee, 10th in that par 3 range, 200 to 225 yards, 5th in the par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 13th in strokes gained putting. This man literally has no weaknesses in his game. I think he's going to want to get a little bit of get back too after underwhelming again at Augusta. So yeah, I expect Bryson to be highly motivated. The $11,000 price tag is a little tough to fit into lineups this week because, I mean, a lot of the mid-shelf is looking really good. But for that reason, you're only getting 12.9% projected ownership on Bryson. And with the win equity he carries, getting a projected ownership that low is always going to be enticing for a guy like Bryson. So first top shelf play, Bryson DeChambeau, $11,000 flat, 12.9% projected ownership. Second top shelf play, Mr. Jon Rahm, $10,000 flat. I'm sorry, $10,800. That was a typo on my sheet. $10,800 price tag, 17.5% projected ownership. Coming in 10th in the custom model, 16th on approach, 9th off the tee, 76th in that par 3 range, 51st in the par 4 range, and 78th with the putter. I mean, Rahm's just an absolutely stellar ball striker. Course history here is good. I believe he's only played the event once, but he came fourth. Yeah, came solo fourth in 2017, the only time he played the event. So course history checks out. And Rahm's just one of those guys who, I've mentioned this before if you've been a long-time podcast listener, he wins more often than you think he does. Like Jon Rahm and he usually plays really strong fields. You don't see him in many weak fields. Jon Rahm wins about 10% of the time he tees it up. So let's see. The last time we saw Rahm take home a victory was at the BMW last August. It has been about 14 or 15 events since Rahm last won. That's usually about when Jon Rahm rings the bell. Quail is a good course fit. You should be able to attack this course off the tee with the driver. And Rahm, of course, as well. Gain stroke through approach in bunches. He looks great. He's going to have to bring the putter with him, but if he does, he will be vying for a victory. 17.5% projected ownership, a little harder to eat than that 12.9% you're getting with Bryson, but still, for a guy like Rahm, who we should expect that win to be coming anytime now, I almost picked him as my winner this week. There was just a guy I think that had a little bit more value on him as far as the betting board is concerned and betting odds go, but Jon Rahm certainly take a hard look at him to win the event as well at that $10,800 price tag, 17.5% projected ownership. And the final top shelf play, Mr. Webb Simpson, $10,200 price tag, 10.9% projected ownership. Coming in 16th in the custom model, 22nd on approach, 31st off the tee, 19th in the par 3 range, 59th in the par 4 range, and 84th with the putter, surprisingly, over the last 12 measured rounds. So we expect Webb, obviously, to regress toward his mean, right, which is, he's one of the better putters on tour. So I expect that putting number to be better in this field this week. And Webb just feels like one of those guys who, if you're making sort of like a safer lineup, if you're taking some chances in the lower pricing tiers of your lineup and you're really loading up on some guys that are lower priced, Webb feels like one of those guys who's like pretty safe to get you a top 20, top 15. So if you're taking a lot of risk elsewhere in your lineup, that's when I like looking to Webb as being a top shelf guy to slide in there. I will note, you'll notice that I did not mention Justin Thomas as a top shelf play. I really wanted to. He was so close to making the cut for me. He's just been so bad with the putter lately that to pay, he's the highest priced player in the field. He's coming in with decent projected ownership at 14.3%. I don't know. I guess if I can throw any sort of wrench in his game right now, or if I can nitpick anything about his game right now, then it sort of feels like an opportunity to move away, especially with so many other great options on the board that really don't have anything I can nitpick at the moment. So JT, I really did want to go that direction, but he just didn't make the cut. If you are a JT person and a JT backer, I mean, by all means, use them this week. There's no reason not to, really, aside from the putting. Just for me, I'm going to look at some other guys who I think, I can't nitpick really any part of their game at this point in time. And for that reason, I'm getting a discount on them. As far as pricing goes, I'll just go that direction. So yeah, Webb Simpson closes out our top shelf plays, which takes us into our mid-shelf plays. As I mentioned, where my winner is, our mid-shelf plays are less than $10,000 in DraftKings salary, of course, but $7,500 or more. So we'll save the SCHWAG bag, those players priced under $7,500, for last, as usual. Let me respark this bad boy, get a little drink of water, and we will get into the mid-shelf plays, where my winner is. The first mid-shelf play, he led the field in birdies last week at the VALSPAR. It's Mr. Viktor Hovland, Big Dick Vic. $9,800 price tag, 22.5% projected ownership. Listen, the price tag's too cheap. This guy should be in the top shelf. He should be a top shelf play this week. So I understand why the ownership's coming in at 22.5%. And honestly, even at 22.5%, because you're getting him at $9,800, he's a tough fade. You could start lineups with Hovland and feel like you have, plenty of win equity across the 6 golfers in your lineup, because Hovland has been absolutely balling. Coming in 12th in the custom model, 23rd on approach, 4th off the tee, 33rd in the par 3 range, 68th in the par 4 range, and 38th in strokes gained putting. I'd like to see that Hovland's turn the around the green game around a bit, which is the most glaring weakness in his game to date. But, I mean, this guy just makes birdies in bunches at times. He runs a bit hot and cold for a player as good as he is. Like, I don't want to say he's a volatile player, because he's not, but he sort of has that, like, Tommy Fleetwood type of feel or effect where, he goes really, really low one day and then just can't really put a round together the next, and vice versa. So if Hovland puts 4 rounds together, he's going to be right up there vying for a victory. He's underpriced, so I get the 22.5%. In cash games, Hovland's the first name you click in. I love the idea of starting lineups with Viktor Hovland this week, but you're going to have to really find creative ways to get different beyond that. And of course, as I mentioned to you guys, frequently one of my favorite ways to get different creatively, just leave a couple $100 on the table. Don't use all your salary. So many people will use all $50,000 of their salary that it increases your chances of being unique exponentially, in my opinion. So do like using Hovland to start lineups, but again, just want to make sure you get different if you go that route. The next mid-shelf play, a guy who I haven't mentioned in a while, so it's glad to see him reappear on the list. Mr. Piggy, Patrick Reed. $9,300 price tag, 9.7% projected ownership. So we're getting Reed at single-digit ownership, which you guys know I love if you're a long-time listener of the podcast. Patrick Reed at single-digit ownership is almost an auto play. Let's see where Reed's coming in the model. Reed is 27th in the model, 41st on approach, 65th off the tee, 90th in the par 3 range, but 22nd in the par 4 range, and 30th putting. And Reed presents the upside to be the best putter in the field this week, right? If everything's firing. Tournament history for Reed, came T28 last year, solo 8th in 2018, T12 in 2017, T28 in 2016, and T58 in 2015. Made the cut his last 5 times here at Quail Hollow. Yeah, Patrick Reed's a gamer. He's a world-class player. The price tag's fair. He's not carrying much ownership. He presents a ton of upside. Yeah, don't see any reason why you can't look to Reed this week at that $9,300 price tag, 9.7% projected ownership. Our favorite Kent State Golden Flash, Mr. Corey Connors at $9,200, 16% projected ownership, just continues to play well, continues to hit the ball well week after week, coming in second in this custom model over the last 12 measured rounds, ninth on approach, second off the tee, 85th in the par 3 range, fourth in that par 4 range, and 41st in strokes gained putting. Yeah, I mean, Connors has been playing really good golf lately. It's crazy to see him priced up here with like guys like Patrick Reed, but man, as of late, it's warranted. The guy's been striking the ball phenomenally, and if you are building a lineup of ball strikers, which would suit you well here at the Wells Fargo, then Corey Connors should be near the top of your list. So Connors, $9,200 price tag, 16% projected ownership is fine. Go ahead and fire him up. I also like Max Homa. As I mentioned, Homa played a lot better golf this past week than I think some people will give him credit for. $9,000 price tag, 13.5% projected ownership. Again, if we see Homa finish like T2 or something like that last week, this ownership's certainly higher, or either that or the price tag's higher, or both. So I do like Homa at this price tag and ownership. Coming in 8th in the custom model, 19th on approach, 40th off the tee, 46th in the par 3 range, 26th in the par 4 range, and 4th with the putter. So, like me, some Max Homa this week, been absolutely balling this year, really elevated his game. Another player who a player we've been taking semi-recently, a player who also sort of elevated his game, or at least seems to be semi-elite in stretches, with the irons especially. Abraham Answer, $8,900 price tag, 9.1% projected ownership, coming in 14th in the custom model, 43rd on approach, 6th off the tee, 85th in the par 3 range, 54th in the par 4 range, and 7th with the putter. Answer just been playing solid golf lately. Price tag's fair. Ownership's in single digits. I do significantly prefer Homa to Answer. But if you can't get the extra $100 to get up to Homa, then I think Answer is a fine compromise. Or if you find yourself liking yourself some Abraham Answer this week, then I can get behind him as a play. The next player is my winner of the event. It's Mr. Sungjae Im, $8,800 price tag, 12.2% projected ownership, coming in 9th in the custom model, 62nd on approach, 21st off the tee, 3rd in the par 3 range, 1st in the par 4 range, and 27th with the putter. Now, these are a Bermuda POA mix, but we know that Sungjae on Bermuda greens is the way to go. I mean, he's been playing good golf lately, a great player. I just feel it for him this week. I really do. Golf course seems like a good enough fit. I believe he's only played the event once, and he made the cut. I don't think it was a stellar finish. Let's see here. Yeah, T31 in 2019. Definitely presents more upside than that. Before he won the Honda Classic, I believe Sungjae's best finish in that event was like T51 or something like that. So he doesn't necessarily have to show you the top 20 or top 10 prior to winning. He can make that leap, and he's shown that before. So I like Sungjae this week a lot. I will be rostering plenty of him on DraftKings at that 12.2% projected ownership. And yeah, go ahead and grab a number on him on the betting boards for the betting odds, because I like me some Sungjae Im to win this week. A player that I'm going to mention because he's won this event before. He was hitting the ball well prior to the Masters, and we used him at the Masters, and it went oh so bad. Jason Day, $8,600 price tag, 7.4% projected ownership's very interesting though. Prior to the Masters, Day really looked like he had been coming on. That's why, I recommended that we go ahead and fire him up and play him at the Masters, where he was abysmal. But let's see. At the AT&T back in February, gained 3.3 strokes tee to green. Then at WGC Mexico at the end of February, gained 3 strokes tee to green. At the API, Arnold Palmer Invitational in early March, gained half a stroke tee to green. At the Players in mid-March, gained 11.2 strokes tee to green. And then shit the bed at the Masters. It's just really interesting. I don't really know what to think of it. I don't know if we just sort of throw the Masters away. I mean, it's a high-profile, high-pressure event. Jason Day, not a guy, especially at this point in his career, that should be affected by the pressure of a major championship. But, Augusta can come up and get you, right? It gets the best of them sometimes. That's the nature of Augusta. That's why we love it so much. But man, Day's been just wildly inconsistent lately. Like, he'll be so good for just really, really brief periods, and then he will be awful for an event or two. So it's really hard to get a read on Jason Day. He could pay off big for you in this spot. I could also easily see him missing the cut. So just someone I want to mention as a high risk, high reward play. Jason Day, $8,600, 7.4% projected ownership. Gonna look back to Keegan Bradley this week, actually. I hope that his awful back nine on Sunday isn't, too deep in his head. $8,500 price tag, 13.2% projected ownership. And Keegan hit the ball fantastically, obviously, last week en route to a solo second. And he's been hitting the ball fantastically, especially over his last 12 measured rounds. Coming in 5th in the custom model, 10th on approach, 18th off the tee, 51st in that par 3 range, 15th in the par 4 range, and 80th with the putter. We don't expect Keegan to be a great putter. Honestly, if he can just putt neutral to the field, he might have a chance to win. So Keegan Bradley, the concern for me again is that he was awful on the back nine on Sunday, and I wonder how much of that carries over with him into this event. If you're of the mind that not much, if any of that carries over with him, then I really like Keegan at this price tag and projected ownership at 13.2%. Another guy who played great last week, Cameron Tringale, $8,400 price tag, 17.2% projected ownership, coming in the custom model at 7th, 44th on approach, 20th off the tee, 8th in the par 3 range, 6th in the par 4 range, and 15th with the putter. I mean, the only thing that's not great about Tringale is that ownership projection at 17.2%, but everything else absolutely checks out. So if you've already built a lineup that you feel like is differentiated enough and you land on Tringale, or you start your lineup with some differentiated lower owned plays like a Patrick Reed or something like that, or fire in a Jason Day, then I absolutely like pairing it with the safety of Tringale and how good his ball striking has been and his game all around has been over his last few events. If you need someone in this pricing range, on the contrary, that's going to help you differentiate your lineup more, I would look to Shane Lowry at $8,200, 8.8% projected ownership, coming in 18th in the custom model, 12th on approach, 78th off the tee, 40th in that par 3 range, 30th in the par 4 range, and 48th with the putter. And I already mentioned the conditions on Friday, and it might lend well to the link style golfer. Man, if we get high wind conditions for Friday and maybe Saturday, like if we get a couple rounds with high wind conditions, that's absolutely going to play into Shane Lowry's hands. Would only make me like him more. And even if we don't get crazy wind conditions, he still looks like a reasonable play. So for that reason, if you need to differentiate your lineup more in this pricing range, I like Shane Lowry to get that accomplished at that $8,200 price tag, 8.8% projected ownership. We're also going to look back to Emiliano Grillo, who shockingly missed the cut after going -5, +5 Thursday, Friday splits last week. $8,100 price tag, 15.3% projected ownership. Grillo still struck the ball really well last week. I mean, Friday he fell apart Friday, but it's one round in a swath of data that tells us that Emiliano Grillo has been one of the PGA Tour's better ball strikers for quite some time now. The guy obviously cannot putt for shit. And you understand that when you sign up to roster Emiliano Grillo. Coming in the custom model, 4th, 6th on approach, 8th off the tee, 110th in the par 3 range. It's not great. Again, there's only 3 holes there, effectively 4 because that 4th par 3 plays at almost 200 yards. But 8th in the par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 74th with the putter, which is really all we expect to see out of him. Probably expect to see something worse. So if he can do that with the putter, then we're probably going to be pretty happy. But as you can see from the ball striking statistics, 6th on approach, 8th off the tee, you're not going to find much better ball striker in this pricing range. So if that's how you're building out your rosters, then you should take yourself some Emiliano Grillo for sure. Lucas Glover at $7,800, 11.6% projected ownership. Coming in 19th in the custom model, 28th on approach, 16th off the tee, 58th in the par 3 range, 69th in the par 4 range, and 71st with the putter. Yeah, so just pretty solid all around, particularly the ball striking numbers, 28th on approach and 16th off the tee, both checking out for me. Glover as well. Okay, he came T31 here last year. Had a solo 8th here in 2016, so has enough good course history. Made the cut here 4 of his last 5 years. Has enough good course history to back the notion that he presents us with some upside this week, especially at this price tag, and an ownership projection of 11.6%, which is not egregious at all. Coming off his career best finish on the PGA Tour, a second place finish, Harold Varner III, $7,600 price tag, 13.6% projected ownership, from the Carolinas area, so should certainly feel comfortable around this golf course. HV3 was cut from this event in 2019, came T55 in 2018, was cut in 2017, and came T24 in his debut in 2016. So a mixed bag of results for HV3. Certainly, I think this is the best brand of HV3 as a golfer that we've seen here in 2021. I mean, as evidenced by the fact that he just posted his best career finish on the PGA Tour with that second place finish, as I alluded to. As far as the model's concerned, HV3 coming in 17th, 57th on approach, 22nd off the tee, 48th in the par 3 range, 32nd in the par 4 range, and 35th with the putter. So just sort of checking every box. We'd like to see a little more upside with the approach numbers, but HV3 is a guy that can run hot on approach. The price tag, fair. The ownership, fair. Yeah, it just seems like, a solid value play down here at $7,600 on Harold Varner III. And the guy who absolutely popped in my model down here in this pricing range to end off the mid-shelf, Matt Wallace, $7,500 price tag, 18.9% projected ownership, so he popped on other models as well. Coming in 6th in the custom model, 5th on approach, 30th off the tee, 141st in the par 3 range, but 1st in the par 4 range, and 82nd in strokes gained putting. Yeah, if Wallace can do anything with the putter, man, I really like him. And if you can just squeak away, playing these par 3s even par this week, $7,500 is far too cheap. Even at 18.9% projected ownership, I will be rostering plenty of Wallace. He is, for this price tag, as I mentioned, sort of just breaking the model. So really like Matt Wallace at that $7,500 price tag, 18.9% projected ownership. And he has not played this event before, but I mean, this should be a phenomenal fit for one Matt Wallace, especially with the golf course playing a little bit firmer, a little bit faster. And with that, everyone's favorite part of the show is the swag bag, baby. Those are golfers priced under $7,500 in DraftKings salary. We only have 4 swag bag plays this week, unfortunately. The swag bag is, this field under $7,500 is apparently a dumpster fire. Because only 4 swag bag plays this week. 1 real long shot, sub 2% owned that we'll get to down at the bottom of the pricing tier. And we'll see how many of you take some shots on him. I think actually, he presents us with a lot of upside this week. So let me re-spark and we'll get into our swag bag plays. All right. The first swag bag play for the 2021 Wells Fargo Championship is Mr. Phil Mickelson, lefty, coming in at a $6,900 price tag, 5.5% projected ownership. I'm as surprised as you probably are that Phil's appearing on this list this week. Coming in 26th in the custom model, 13th on approach, 48th off the tee. That ball striking solid, Phil, especially for a $6,900 price tag. 45th in the par 3 range, 76th in the par 4 range concerns me, and 54th with the putter. But of course, there's going to be at least, a question mark with a player priced down here. That's why we're sub $7,000 in the pricing now. But Phil been playing solid golf lately. Let's go ahead and pull his strokes gained data over his last couple events here. If it wants to load. There we go. Okay, so he missed the cut at VALSPAR last week, but gained 1.7 strokes tee to green, gained 2 strokes on approach, lost 1.7 strokes with the putter, which we know Phil can run hot and cold with the putter. He also lost 0.3 strokes around the green, which is certainly uncharacteristic of Phil. We don't get full strokes gain data for the Masters, but he gained 3.8 strokes total there. At the Valero, he lost 3 strokes tee to green, so of course not a good performance there. But at the Honda, gained 4.1 strokes tee to green. At the Players, gained 3.6 strokes tee to green. So all in all, been hitting the ball decently lately. The ball striking's been okay. And Phil really likes this event, apparently, according to his results. He was cut in 2019, but came T5 in 2018, T18 in 2017, T4 in 2016, and T4 in 2015. So yeah, if Phil can recapture a little bit of the magic, he presents a lot of upside at this price tag and only 5.5% projected ownership. So I think this is a week that, even though, I mean, normally you probably only want to roster Phil in California at this point in his career, but if it's not going to be California, this is one of the rare weeks I think it makes sense to fire up some Phil Mickelson. The next SCHWAG bag play. Luke List, $6,800 price tag, 8% projected ownership. Surprised me. People must be willing to take a chance that Luke List isn't like the world's worst putter. Like I might be willing to take that chance this week. $6,800 price tag, came T9 here in 2018, made 3 of his last 4 cuts here, coming in the custom model at 13th, 21st on approach, 15th off the tee, 108th in the par 3 range, but 44th in the par 4 range, and as I mentioned with the putter, 147th for Mr. Luke List with the putter, almost dead last in this field. Yeah, it's not been good with the flat stick for Luke. If he can do anything with that putter this week, he is certainly going to pay off this price tag. That's why the ownership is, decently high for a player down here at $6,800, 8%. There are some folks out there that are just hoping List lucks into a good putting week, and it's possible, right? So the ball striking certainly is there, presents lots of upside at this price tag. It's just, will List be able to find anything with the putter this week? Tom Lewis at $6,700, 7.5% projected ownership, so carrying, at least a little bit of ownership as well, similarly to List. Lewis coming in 21st in the custom model, 65th on approach, 29th off the tee, 13th on the par 3 range, 27th in the par 4 range, and 61st with the putter. So oddly well-rounded for a player down here in this pricing range. And I don't have a ton of conviction about any of these guys down here outside of maybe Phil. I do kind of like Phil this week. But these other guys are really just, if you get stuck with this amount of salary left, then these are the players that I view as viable. So if you have $6,700 left, go ahead and plug in Tom Lewis, $6,700, 7.5% projected ownership. Or if you have that $6,700 left in your lineup, you could take a shot on this bomb, our last player in the SCHWAG bag, Mr. Danny Lee, $6,600 price tag, 1.8% projected ownership. Always a withdrawal risk, so be wary of that. Coming in 24th in the custom model, though, 38th on approach, 25th off the tee, 18th in the par 3 range, 66th in the par 4 range, and 91st with the putter. So, not as bad as List with the putter. But if he can bring some upside with that putter and find a little bit of magic, just get a little bit of luck. Like the people who are hoping that Luke List gets lucky with the putter, yes, List has been a better ball striker than Danny Lee has as of late, so I get that. But you're getting, a 4-to-1 discount as far as ownership goes on Danny Lee, and $200 discount. So have to weigh that against it as well. So if you're just hoping for putting luck, I think that Danny Lee, if Luke List is going to warrant 8% ownership, then that 1.8% projected ownership on Danny Lee looks a bit low to me. And that recaps the 2021 Wells Fargo Championship. Remember, guys, mark off that Sunday, May 23rd on your calendar for the PGA Championship. I'm going to be doing a sort of alternate broadcast. I'll get you guys the info as we get probably a week or a couple weeks out. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like the video. Let me know what you're smoking in the comments as well. I'll make sure I respond to all of your comments, y'all, because I love you guys. I love when the comments come. Make sure you keep entering those DraftKings lineups and let me know how you guys perform. Love getting the screenshots. Love seeing when you guys win. We've been having some strong player pools this year, so hopefully you guys are raking it in as a result. And I cannot wait for this fucking PGA Championship. It's going to be an awesome time, guys. Really hope to see you there. And until next week, guys, I'll see you on the pod again. Peace.